On August 19th, 2025, Cracker Barrel rolled out a retooled version of their logo, simplifying the design and removing the iconic Uncle Herschel cartoon character. On August 26th, only a week later, due to much backlash, they would scrap this version of the logo in favor of bringing back the previous one. If you take away anything from my channel, this is what I hope you take away. Nostalgia is not always a bad thing. When we look in abstract about changes made to certain things, whether it be the Minecraft spawn egg designs, or even now the UI, it's important to have a hard stance against change for the sake of change, for even the most trivial things. Because if you don't, then you get the most bland, soulless reality imaginable. And Cracker Barrel is proof that the internet outcry over these kinds of things really does work. People are tired of the minimalist trend we've seen for at least the past decade, and Cracker Barrel was just another example of that. Except it wasn't just another example. It was the example that should have never happened. The entire atmosphere was made to feel old-timey. It was meant to feel like you're going back in time or going to Grandma and Grandpa's house for a good meal. When you modernize an atmosphere like that, you're taking away the point of having it in the first place. It's honestly hard to think of a marketing fail of greater magnitude than this in recent memory. I mean, maybe Quibi, but honestly, its failures were more due to it being a bad idea from the very beginning. I mean, it's hard to intentionally sabotage your brand more than Cracker Barrel almost did with the logo change and interior redesigning. And while the reversal of the logo change proves that the outcry does work, is that really true? I mean, the interior redesigns likely won't be reversed, and I argue those were the worst of the two changes being made since they got rid of something that was even more iconic. The real lesson that should be learned from this is that nothing is sacred. I mean, they changed the easiest thing that was possible for them to change, and the thing that would have the least impact on your dining experience. And as an American, the food culture of my country is one of my greatest points of patriotism. It's something I'm very proud of that our chain restaurants were the ones that took the world by storm. Nearly as important to the success of American chain restaurants as their menu was the atmosphere and architecture within and without. It breaks my heart to see very distinct and outwardly lively McDonald's restaurants be turned into emotionless, gray, almost brutalist versions that have become carbon copies of each other. Hell, at least the tan brick design had some yellow accents. When the final McDonald's in my area had remodeled, it was as if a piece of culture had died, and I think Cracker Barrel's redesign hit a similar nerve in the American culture. People don't like to see icons they've known for years and years change, even if the change is quote-unquote better than what came before it. That's a drum I've beaten on this channel time and time again.
And we're sitting here again talking about the same things.
And I will continue to. Change for change's sake is a bad thing. Modernity for modernity's sake is also bad, especially when you miss the point as bad as Cracker Barrel did. Now, this is all trivial since Cracker Barrel did end up reversing the rebrand, but only partly and only in the most superficial way possible. There's only so much you can do once something has been done. Cracker Barrel rebrand bad is not the main point of this video, but it is merely adjacent to the thesis, which is that the 2000s were the peak era for design and marketing, and we can learn a lot from that era. Nearly everything we've done to move away from those designs has been a mistake. Let's stick to the McDonald's example, and as we go, we'll get to less and less food-related examples. For one, when you looked at a McDonald's until about 2010 or so, your image of what it was probably depended on whatever the closest one to you looked like. The very designs we see are mostly a thing of the past. Even some of the stock cookie-cutter designs, like with the red angled roofs, were a lot more lively and were distinct features you could actually associate with a brand. Now, whenever I look at a newly constructed or remodeled McDonald's, I just get reminded of East Germany, which I don't think was the intention. I've talked about this before with things like the McDonald's you'd sometimes see in Walmarts. They have distinct design features that stand out and entice you to go in. Now most of these locations have been removed, and the standalone ones have this gray, boxy design. I think this has actually done measurable damage to the American psyche. These whimsically designed places, easily associated with a known brand of expected quality and taste, have turned into things that look like any other building. For those of us that observed that change, it's messed up. Even when it comes to the menus themselves, past eras are just undefeated when it comes to giving you things that make you say, wow, that's cool, which I just don't find myself saying anymore. We've all seen
Coke and Fries Halo. This was available for purchase in 2007 leading up to the release date of Halo 3.
Just altering their aesthetics enough for the things that would ordinarily become trash to be collectible items. I don't really know why I like these so much, but I think the reason is that it makes you feel like the restaurant is meeting the customers where they are. Flat designs, minimal use of colors, and, as I've mentioned before, architecture and interior changes created a sense of distance from the consumer that you don't really see as much 10 years ago as you do today. I hesitate to call this stuff boring, but to me, that's honestly what it is. I mean, I can't remember a promotion like Coke and Fries Halo from recent memory. Maybe those one-piece cups at Hardee's a few years ago, but honestly that's it, and even that didn't last long. Heck, even within video games themselves, the boring flat designs have taken over. I mean, this has been happening for at least 2 console generations at this point. The old Xbox or PS2 screens were something we took for granted, and even the Blades dashboard from the Xbox 360 days is something I seriously miss. Colorful, creative UI that actually takes design risks is a rarity these days. And the Blades dashboard didn't even last the entire 360 generation since it ended with this, which is just ugh. And of course, nothing even remotely close to the awesome 3DS themes would ever be made today. As, in the 8 years of existence for the Switch and Switch 2, it has produced only black or white as possible themes with no ambient sound on the menus like you had with the Wii, Wii U, and 3DS. When you started up those consoles, or your original Xbox or PS2, etc., you felt like you were walking into a home. When you start up a modern game console, you feel like you're walking into an art museum, and that's a problem. Customizability has been stripped from the user experience for a lot of things in the current day, and as a result, it just feels like there's a lot less life to it. If you want an example of just how bad it's gotten, go on Wayback Machine to your favorite YouTuber's channel circa 2011 or so. Look how much more colorful and unique they were compared to today, where you get to customize your banner in your profile picture, and that's basically it. If I could make my entire channel page with the multicolored star backgrounds I use in my videos, I would. Even things like the iPhone UI have changed from their beveled and skeuomorphic designs to the flat designs we see basically everywhere now. There's no character in these designs, resulting in a less lively world than the one we used to inhabit. Now, you might think these examples aren't relevant to the original topic being discussed, which is Cracker Barrel, but indeed they are. Society can tolerate a certain amount of flat-designed, characterless, colorless spaces, but when you have a space whose original design was to not be that, and whose design was, from the beginning, supposed to have certain aesthetics, that is where a huge mistake is made. And adjacent to that, we'll probably never see this, and this, but at least Cracker Barrel did decide to reverse the rebrand, in whatever way they found feasible. Thanks for watching, guys. Have a good one. Leave a subscription and a like if you liked the video, and I hope to see you in the next one.